800 years ago, this was the largest city on the face of the earth. Not Rome, not Constantinople, a city in the jungle of Cambodia, home to as many as 1 million people, sprawling across an area the size of modern Los Angeles. And then it vanished. The jungle swallowed it whole. For centuries, we blamed invaders. We blamed the gods. But the real killer was hiding in plain sight. And here's the part nobody tells you. The exact thing that made Angkor the greatest city in the world is the thing that destroyed it. This is the Khmer Empire. And this is a case file on how genius becomes a death sentence. At its peak, around the 12th century, the Khmer Empire ruled most of Southeast Asia. Its capital, Angkor, was no ordinary city. When a French explorer named Henri Mouhot stumbled onto the ruins in the 1860s, he wrote that they were grander than anything left to us by Greece or Rome, and refused to believe a jungle kingdom had built them. But they had, and it was far bigger than anyone guessed. In 2012, archaeologists flew laser scanners over the jungle, a technology called LiDAR that strips away the trees and reveals the ground beneath. What they found stunned them, not just the famous temples, but an entire hidden city around them. A connected urban sprawl of more than 1,000 square kilometers, the largest settlement complex of the entire pre-industrial world. At its heart stood Angkor Wat, still today the largest religious monument ever built by human hands. But a city of 1 million people in a tropical climate has one problem above all others: water. Too much of it for half the year, almost none for the other half. Solve that, and you rule. Fail, and you starve. The Khmer didn't just solve it, they built a machine. They turned the entire landscape into a water computer. A vast web of canals, moats, embankments, and giant reservoirs they called barais. The largest, the West Barai, stretches 8 kilometers long and could hold 53 million cubic meters of water, hand-dug 8 centuries ago without a single machine. In the monsoon, the system captured the floods and stored them. In the dry season, it released that water across endless rice paddies. Some fields could grow 2, even 3 harvests a year, while rival kingdoms prayed for rain. That is the whole secret. More water meant more rice. More rice meant more people. More people meant more soldiers and more temples. The water system wasn't just plumbing, it was the foundation everything else was stacked on. Historians literally call Angkor a hydraulic city, a civilization that ran on water control. For 600 years it worked. It made them untouchable. And every year, to stay untouchable, they made the machine a little bigger. Here's where the case turns. That machine was never redesigned. It was only ever added to. Over 5 centuries, each generation of engineers inherited the last one's canals and reservoirs and simply built on top of them. Bigger barais, longer channels, more connections. By the end, Angkor's water network was enormous, rigid, and completely interlocked. Touch one part, and you affected all of it. And archaeologists have found something telling. Failures in the system were already common. Canals silting up, embankments breaching. They were patching an aging machine they could no longer fully control, and they had built their entire civilization on top of it. A system that big only survives if the world stays predictable. The world was about to stop being predictable. How do we know what the weather did 700 years ago? Scientists found the answer inside trees. In 2010, researchers drilled into ancient cypress trees in the highlands of Vietnam, some of them over 1,000 years old. Every year a tree lays down a ring, fat in wet years, thin in dry ones. Read them in order, and you get a year-by-year diary of the climate, stretching back centuries. What that diary revealed was brutal. In the 14th and 15th centuries, Angkor was hammered by not 1, but 2 megadroughts. Not a dry year, decades of drought stacked back to back, the worst in the entire record. For a city that ran on stored water, this was the beginning of the end. The reservoirs dropped, the canals ran low, the rice failed, The machine was starving for the one thing it was built to manage. But the drought wasn't even the worst part. It was what came after it. The droughts didn't end gently. They broke with violent, intense monsoons, years of flooding far heavier than normal. Picture it, a giant, aging, fragile water network, half choked with sediment after years of drought. Then it gets slammed by record floods. The infrastructure couldn't take the whipsaw, and the archaeology shows the damage directly. At one major channel, researchers found the structure had been breached, then crudely patched with rubble and material torn out of other parts of the network. A city cannibalizing its own infrastructure just to keep the water moving. Canals buried in sand, embankments blown out, control structures torn apart. The very channels that were supposed to save them became the thing tearing the city apart. They were trapped. Too little water had weakened them. Too much water was now destroying the only system they had to deal with it. And it was far too big and far too broken to rebuild in time. A starving, flooded, weakened Angkor was a target. In 1431, the rival kingdom of Ayutthaya in present-day Thailand marched in and sacked the city. Meanwhile, the world had moved on. Trade was shifting to the sea, and the Khmer court began drifting south toward what would become Phnom Penh. There was no single dramatic death, no final battle that ended it all. The greatest city in the world simply emptied out. The canals silted up for good. The rice fields went quiet. The people drifted away, generation by generation, until the jungle moved back in and reclaimed what they left behind. Tree roots cracked the temple walls. Vines swallowed the towers. And for the better part of 400 years, the largest city the pre-industrial world ever built sat silent in the forest, until outsiders rediscovered it and assumed they'd found the ruins of a lost mythical kingdom. It was never myth. It was a warning. So here's the pattern in this file. Angkor didn't fall because they were primitive. They fell because they were too advanced for their own good. They built a system so brilliant, so powerful, and so essential that they couldn't live without it. And they made it so big and so rigid that they couldn't fix it when the world changed. Their greatest strength quietly became their single point of failure. You see it everywhere now. The company that's so optimized it can't adapt. The power grid too connected to fail safely. The supply chain so efficient it shatters the moment one link breaks. We keep building water computers. We keep forgetting they only work while the weather holds. Angkor was the largest city on Earth. It was swallowed by the jungle not because it built too little, but because it built too much and forgot how to bend. Every disaster hides a pattern. Subscribe, and we'll see you in the next case.